This video describes the cases that you can use to apply the diathesis-stress model in Chapter 3. You'll be choosing one of these two. So the choices that you'll have are between a fictional character, the Joker, and a real live young man named Daniel Petric. By choosing these two, I don't mean in any way to imply that they have a lot in common, because they really don't. The Joker is a fictional, quote, psychopathic character in a futuristic metropolis who resorts to extreme violence in a particular situation. And Daniel was a real teenager whose misguided violent act over a video game cost his family everything. So both of these, even though they're very different, they offer an opportunity to consider how diatheses and stressors might come into play to generate behaviors, and behaviors we might consider to be abnormal. The juxtaposition of these individuals, again, isn't to suggest that they're similar or to minimize the tragedy about Daniel's story, but we do consider these challenging cases when we're looking at abnormal psych, because that is the focus of this course. The first case is the Joker. And you perhaps know that the Joker is a character, a villainous character in the Batman series of movies, and he causes a lot of harm. He kills a lot of people. And his catch line that he repeats is, "Why so serious?" And that line kind of sticks with me sometimes from the movie. But I have never been much of a Batman fan. I haven't really seen the movies. But a few years ago in this very class, a student, when we were studying this model, it was right when this movie had come out, and the student said that this would be an excellent case for the diathesis-stress model because it goes into the background of the Joker. And so I eventually saw the movie, and I had to say that I agreed with her that there are a lot of diatheses, preconditions or distal clauses that kind of set the foundation for the development of his behavior. And there were many proximal causes or immediate stressors that might have tipped him over the edge. And so I want to invite you to analyze this case of this one if you've seen that movie and you think would find it interesting. But it is only possible if you've watched or if you decide to watch this movie. And I'm not going to assign you to watch this movie. Some of you might not like that kind of thing or might not have access to it. So a second choice is rather a tragic case. This is Daniel, and he was born August 24th, 1991. He's 29 years old today, and he is still incarcerated. And he's incarcerated for a crime, a fairly serious crime. When he was 16 years old, this is the crime in a nutshell, he took a gun from a lockbox in his father's office, walked onto the living room where both of his parents were sitting on the couch with their backs to the door, waiting for a baseball game to start on TV. He said, "Mom, Dad, close your eyes. I have a surprise for you." He shot both of them in the head. His mother died. His father lived and forgave him. So it's a very disturbing story. So I'll give you a little bit of background about the family. Daniel was the youngest of 3 children born to Mark and Susan Petric. He had 2 older sisters. They both didn't live in the home anymore. They were grown. One of them was married. His father was the pastor of an Assembly of God church in Cleveland, Ohio. His mother worked to support the family in the church from home. There's no evidence presented anywhere that I've been able to find that suggests they were anything but a loving family. So there's no family history, at least on the records, of difficult things that happened in the home, although every home has challenging things that happen, regardless of whether there's a record. So he was a really active teen. Like, he enjoyed outdoor high adrenaline activities like skiing and jet skiing, that sort of thing, and like high adrenaline things. So he enjoyed that sort of thing. But when he was 15, he sustained a serious back injury while he was skiing, and then he developed a staph infection along his spine, and the potential risks for that were paralysis. And so he was prohibited from physical activities faster than walking. So all those high adrenaline things that he had been doing, he couldn't do anymore. And he had been housebound in this way, that is, not doing anything, no physical activity of any, getting his heart rate up kind of sort, for nearly a year at the time of this crime. His parents allowed him to play video games. They didn't restrict him from that, but they forbade video games with violence. He played Halo 3 at a friend's house and he liked it, so he saved up his money and snuck out of the house one day to buy it. At home, when he got home, he played it in his room. He had a set in his room. He played it extensively, up to 18 hours at a time without a break. His mom eventually discovered the game and told his dad. His dad took the game away and put it in the locked safe box, which also was where his gun was stored. On the day of the shooting, Daniel had found the key and retrieved his game. So he went to get his game out of the lockbox, and he also got the gun. Walking into the living room, he said, "Mom, Dad, close your eyes, I've got a surprise for you," and he shot his parents. His dad reported at the trial that he had expected it to be something pleasant, a nice surprise. After the shooting, he put the gun into his father's hands, saying, "Here, Dad, here's your gun." When his sister arrived to watch the game, he tried to keep her out, saying, "Don't come in here. Mom and Dad had a big fight." She pushed past him and came in. He ran in the family car. He left and he took his game with him. And when he stopped, he told the police that his father had shot his mother. So that is the basic story of what happened. I don't know particularly more information than that. What I would be looking for you to do, what you will want to do for this is to apply the diathesis-stress model to one of these two cases. So first off, you'd want to describe the maladaptive behavior, thoughts, experiences. Then find any information you want to use. So if you watch the movie, you'll maybe want to go back and review it and jot some things down. In this case, maybe there's other information that you can find or that you'd be interested in finding. Otherwise, you can use what I've provided. You'll want to identify the diatheses, the distal clauses, and discriminate necessary, sufficient, and contributing clauses that we talked about in this chapter. You'll want to identify stressors, proximal clauses, and then determine whether you think, even though you haven't yet learned about any particulars of the disorders, just based on your common knowledge, do you think there's any sort of disorder that might be present that contributed to the behavior? So if you really want to make a kind of a cool contribution, you could draw a diagram of how these factors might have interacted, similar to the diathesis-stress diagram that we used in lecture.